ready for the Saturday night safety briefing. I know it's funny, but it just sounded a lot better that way. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. It's truly an honor to be here with all of you tonight. As a former Navy corpsman, I retired out in 2009. But tonight, I want to talk to you about what it means to be a hospital corpsman, about the legacy and heritage that we all are a part of here tonight. What it truly means to be a hospital corpsman, and what it truly means to be called doc. Throughout our history, hospital corpsmen have answered the call. Corpsman up, doc, on the battlefield, near and far. The battlefield of Bellawood, the Black Sands of Iwo Jima, at Chosin, the jungles of Vietnam, and more recently, the streets of Fallujah and the mountains of Afghanistan, where some of you here tonight have walked those same streets. Aboard ships and here at home. When that call goes out, no matter the situation, one of us always answers. 24 years ago, I was you. Many of you young guys sitting here in the room, I was sitting in your same seat 24 years ago. I was down at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I was in FMF school. Nothing was going on in the world, similar to now. There was no war and terror. There was no action going on in the world. And then 9/11 happened. It was a warm day. We were out there training. We had a couple more weeks left at Camp Geiger. I mean, not Camp Geiger, Camp Johnson. We were almost done with FMF school there. All of a sudden, we were doing some helo ops. Staff sergeant came out and said, "Hey, you're secured to the barracks. World Trade Center's been attacked by terrorists." And we're looking at each other like, what kind of training op is this? You know, they always got some wild story, the Verona Lupians or, you know, the Mars, you know, guys attacked from across the street. There's some wild story they make up. So we go back to the barracks, we turn on the TVs, and there it is. The first tower had just come down, and the second tower was just about to be hit. We're flipping through the channels, we're looking at it, like, what's going on? You know, is this real? And the world began to change forever that day. Shortly after that, our class was cut short. I was deployed to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, back in 2002. More of a vacation than anything, taking care of the detainees that we brought in from around the world. And it was there I'd spent many days doing sorting records and hiking with classes over Camp Geiger. I was working at School of Infantry at the time. But the world had changed in an instant. And then shortly after that, in 2004, I deployed to Iraq with 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. In that first week I was there, I heard that corpsman up for the first time in my life. It wasn't training anymore. I was just like you guys. I was fresh out of school, just deployed, went to Iraq, and we were out on a vehicle patrol. We were driving through the streets at night. First vehicle got hit by a large improvised explosive device. Big fire explosion like you see in the movies there. Vehicle pushed up out of the kill zone. I jumped out of the truck like any corpsman would and started to run towards that vehicle that had been blown up. And those voices still haunt me today. Still hear in my dreams, that corpsman up, that doc. And you guys have heard it in training, and some of you guys have heard it for real in the battlefield. It seemed like running the longest run of my life. They replaced the sidewalks with artillery shells, 55 millimeter shells, and they had shredded those trucks to pieces. When I opened the back of that Humvee, they had dragged them into a truck-style Humvee. We had the back doors on it. It was the early days of the war. We didn't have the armor that you guys do today. When I opened that door, that blood came rushing out from all those wounded Marines all over my legs. And it was that moment, I talked about it in the CNN interview, and I was trying to understand what happened in that moment. It was like somebody was guiding my hands, pushing me into the back of that truck. Some call it the third man factor, that presence in a life and death situation. But to me, in that moment, it was our legacy. It was the corpsmen who had gone before. They were guiding my hands to work. As we got into that truck, Marines started to do what we had taught them to do. Self-aid, body aid. You know, applying tourniquets, putting up bandaging Marines. One guy had lost both of his legs, another one had top of his head torn apart. And we had 5 wounded Marines in there, so I was just one corpsman trying to work in that mess. But in that moment, we were able to get those Marines out. We saved everybody in that fight. And a CH-53, that big medium lift helicopter, came out and saved us that day. Came, landed in the road, we were able to load the Marines up in it. And in that moment, once those Marines were loaded on that helicopter and took off, it was like the adrenaline left me. All that support just left me. I collapsed on the sidewalk. And those Marines came up to me and said, "You did good, Doc, but we got to get back in the fight." And we loaded up in that truck and rode back to that base, and that patrol continued. One day, you're doing paperwork, or get another death by PowerPoint, as we all know from, sure, across that's everybody nodding out there. But the next moment, you're in the fight. And that's how it goes. One day we're here, we're working at King Hall, or working over at Newport, and then next thing you know, you're deployed to halfway around the world, answering that call, Corpsman up. And then in 2005, we were back in Iraq again. Same type of patrol, 4 vehicles. You know, we'd just gotten the new armor, and I was in that 3rd vehicle again. We got hit by another improvised explosive device like many, many times before. But the big difference with this one was, I'm sure you guys have heard of Murphy's Laws of Combat. This came into play, unfortunately. Professionals are predictable. Good thing the world is full of amateurs. Unfortunately, these guys knew our playbook by the back of their hand. I'm sure you guys had to do it. The 10s and 25s, you stop, dismount, everybody's looking around the vehicle. You know, we've been hit many, many times by these IEDs. This time, they knew exactly how we were going to react. They set off a device, first vehicle got blown up, vehicle pushed up out of the kill zone, everybody dismounts in the vehicle now. Now they have no protection. They're outside of that armor. I'm in the 3rd vehicle, waiting for the call. And then as soon as those Marines dismount from the vehicle, a second device goes off. It's twice the size of the first one. And I just watch in horror as all my Marines disappear in a cloud of smoke. I did what every doc does. Got on my truck and started trying to push towards those Marines to help them. What I didn't realize, it was a complex ambush. We started to take heavy fire from different sides of the road. This was shortly after the Second Battle of Fallujah, and these guys were some hardened fighters. As I was running up there, I realized I was getting shot at. You know, you're just so focused on trying to get to the objective, to get to those Marines. And once I got up there, first guy I came across was one of my drivers. His foot had been taken off by that blast, that second blast. And then when I got to the main truck, the interpreter had lost his arm from the collarbone down. There was nothing I could do for what was happening with the blood loss. It was nothing. I couldn't get a tourniquet on. It was just an absolute mess. In that L-shaped position that we were in, these Marines were torn to bits. And only thing I could think of was, again, in that moment, you know, the corpsman came back, was if we can get to that second truck, maybe we got a chance. Because they were in front of us and on the side. We were still taking heavy small arms fire, and thank goodness these guys think I was going to guide their bullets. They couldn't hit the broadside of the bar. We were taking heavy fire. It wasn't very accurate fire, thank goodness. So we fought. Dragged those guys back to the second truck, and we fought from there. And one thing Marines are good at, ain't the brightest bulbs in the tree, as you all know, but they can fight. In fight they did. We fought for about 15 minutes, to the point where we were getting low in ammunition. The insurgents were closing in our position. They were using bounding tactics. And as we fought, we were running out of ammunition, looking at our rounds, and it was right after Blackwater Bridge. You know, we were talking about saving one for ourselves. But as the Quick Reaction Force came to help us, an amazing thing happened. I remember looking back and I see the Quick Reaction Force pull up, and all of a sudden I see this group of individuals coming towards us, half dressed. Half of them have the Kevlars on. They're wearing shorts, and there's one tall guy sticking out on the top. And it was our battalion surgeon, Doc Brett. And if any of you guys know, that's the most important, most expensive guy on the team, is the battalion surgeon, right? He never comes out. He stays at the base, he stays at the aid station. We always bring the troops to him, and that's where his base operations is. But in this moment, old Doc Brett had rounded up the troops in the BAS. These corpsmen who had fought in the original Battle of Fallujah, many battle-hardened guys from the old 3 invasion, and rounded them up. They acquired a Humvee. You know, they didn't steal it. They just relocated it, piled them together, and saw the situation that we were in, the fight that we were in, how many wounded we had in that moment, and came out and gave us support. I'll never forget that, because that's what it means to be a corpsman. no matter how bad the fight gets, you guys always answer the call. We're not just medics, we're their protectors, we're their therapists, we're their brothers, and the last call in the crisis. You know, as a corpsman, you're the one that your Marines and your sailors are gonna call. They'll call you at 2 a.m. when they're drinking too much, but also when their marriage is falling apart, or when they're thinking of ending it all. Still today, 15 years later, I still get those calls. That bond, that brotherhood, it doesn't end with your DD-214. But I'll tell you what, the cross that we bear as corpsmen is heavy. When the battle ends and the silence comes, the memories and the doubts, did I do enough? Did I make a difference? And sometimes God's gonna say, not tonight, Doc. They're coming home with me. It's gonna crush you. It has crushed many of us. The loss of your sense of purpose, the 22 a day. But hear me out. Pain is temporary. Legacy is forever. Now, I know many of you here are from the Shore Command in Newport. I was stationed there back in 2007, so I know the feeling. It's not Iraq, it's King Hall. You get it. It's not a firefight, it's fighting to find a record, or it's dealing with the NAF kids. You know, the runny nose, the cough. Morale can dip when you feel like there's no mission. But let me tell you, purpose is not just found in combat, it's found in preparation. And speaking of preparation, MedIG is next week. God bless you guys. I've been out for 15 years, and MedIG still exists. You know, MedIG just hits different. I still get PTSD thinking about that. You know, you go from getting the job done to getting a label maker. You know, I saw a corpsman one time where I'll get ready for MedIG. He's over there cleaning the clock. I'm like, hey, devil, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just trying to clean the clock in case they inspectors want to look at it. They're looking for smudges at 1400. I was like, roger that. All right, good to go. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my wife here. She's, you know, at this point, you guys, I'm sure you're, half the command's got PTSD. Not post-traumatic stress disorder, but post-traumatic spreadsheet disorder. The amount of emails that she sends out. I hear it every night. And there's one thing I don't want to leave out, because I had to do it too. And some of you, God help you, are stuck on ASF. Where's my ASF cats at? 15 years ago, we were doing that too. You know, wondering, I get it. ASF, you know, guarding a gate. What does this have to do with being a corpsman? Trust me, I was there, you know. I feel you. But I'll tell you this. Whether you're in a BAS or you're in combat on the front, or handing out Motrin at sick call, because we've all done that before. I used to got an 800 ml bottle, 800 dose of Motrin, the bottle, 500 pill bottle. I set it up in the company office and I put candy on it for all the Marines. They, you know, they love their Motrin. You're representing something bigger than yourself. You carry a lineage. You carry a sacred trust. A legacy that when someone sees that produce, they breathe a little easier. In closing though, it doesn't end with your DD-214. And when I transitioned out in 2009, I didn't hang up that uniform. I just changed my uniform. I became a firefighter and an EMT. It's a great job. I miss being a corpsman, but being a firefighter, nobody shoots at you anymore. I mean, once in a while, with this whole active shooter thing that we deal with now, unfortunately, it's definitely a different world. But, you know what the best part about being a fireman is? We get paid overtime. You know those events you get told to be there? They were like, hey, you want to work tonight? I said, yeah, I'll work tonight. Like, hey, you're going to get overtime. I'm like, what's that? They're like, you get paid to work the extra hours, not when you're told, you know? It's such a great thing. It's absolutely amazing. You know, there's nothing better than being a U.S. Navy corpsman, but the second best thing is being a firefighter, I gotta say. But one cool thing that you will experience if you get into the medical field or if you get into service when you get outside is that sometimes in the back of the rescue, we'll take in a veteran. Sometimes it's a veteran in crisis. I've dealt with many guys from the war, PTSD. They'll call me in and say, hey, you want to come talk to this guy, so you talk him down a little bit? And they hear that you're a Navy corpsman, they smile. I've had many Vietnam guys that say, I'm in good hands, Doc. And that's not just because of me. That's not me as an individual. It's because of us here in this room and our long lineage of history and our great legacy that we will continue to uphold. Long after that uniform's hung up, the calls are still going to come. They may not trust their doctor, but they will trust you. And in ending tonight, never forget where you came from. I still got a motap on my chest that says 03 Doc, USMC. Because 03 is the infantry field, and Doc is always where my heart will be. You're part of the most decorated Navy in the U.S. Navy. And until the good Lord says it's time to come home, you're a hospital corpsman. And you'll answer that call, corpsman up. And that, folks, God bless America. God bless the hospital corps. And most of all, God bless all of you. And that concludes your Saturday Night Safety Briefing.